This is a call to order for the Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 Conservation Commission meeting. The first item will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for participating. The approval of minutes from the January 26th, 2022 meeting.
Now playing first base for the Boston Red Sox. No, there's an echo. There's a significant red, stadium-like computer, yes.
They say we sound like Fenway Park, Bill. What do you want me to do?
Can you mute your computer? Amy, are you muted on your computer?
It says.
Okay.
I'll just push the mic back a little. How about now?
No, still there. Might be that.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry, we have technical help here.
One, two. That seems, Al, seems
Hey,
correct.
Al, try this mic. Is it the microphone?
I don't know. Do you think it's the mic?
I don't think so.
No, it isn't.
All right. Want me to be quieter?
No, it's I think the other way.
Okay.
If I leave the call, I'm gonna leave the call.
1, 2, Al, echo.
Give it a shot.
I'm not hearing any echo anyway, guys, so.
I think it's gone.
It's
I think it's gone. It's gone.
All right. Everybody happy? Randy, all good back there? The cheap seats? Okay, all right. Randy says we're a go. Okay, the approval of minutes for January 26, 2022.
Yeah, I've read those minutes, and I would move to approve them with two small changes. On page 5, the adjournment motion and the record of our vote was recorded in duplicate, and so that's one correction. The other correction is on the decision for 242-1833. The third sentence should read, the page numbering will be corrected as recommended, and that's it. So that would replace the sentence that says pages will be revised x of 12.
I remember that, I second that.
Yep.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is unanimous. Thank you. The first two NOIs in order are requesting to continue 242-1822 45 Katuitt Street. Request to continue to 3/9/22.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. 242-1787, 135 North Ramp Road, DeRosa. Request to continue to 2/23/22.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is unanimous. Request for determination of applicability, 492 Sutton Street, Lawrence Municipal Airport Commission. Mr. Christensen, on behalf of.
Mr. Ramsey, good to see you.
Good to see you. Pleasure.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mike Miller, Airport Manager.
Good evening. The-
Got one. Blow it up. Fantastic. For the record, my name is Randy Christensen, environmental scientist with Stantec Consulting Services. We are the consultant of record for Lawrence Municipal Airport and the Airport Commission. Who is the applicant for this particular project? Needless to say, we've been before this commission as a team for 20-plus years. And this project's a little bit different in that we have very tiny, small, 2,200 square feet of work within a turf buffer zone area, but the project itself is quite large. But in speaking with the administrator this past summer when we walked the project, it seemed like it was good to use this RDA forum to get the message out to the airport abutters and to the commission of the overall project, because there will be noticeable construction at the airport. and just use this as a forum to get the information out. So as I speak here, I'll show you the small amount that's actually in buffer zone, but I will be talking about the entire project so you can grasp it in case you get questions offline here about the project. So this is a taxiway shift project. We have a diagonal taxiway on the airport, which on the figure on this, and I don't know if you can look behind you or you want to turn to this.
We
photo.
actually have it right,
Oh, you do? I'm technologically
we're
challenged
making a little
sometimes.
bit of progress every,
Looks like we're
I'm not.
actually paying attention.
You guys are nodding off, right?
every week we do a little better. We have one here.
So we color-coded this particular plan to show the gain of payment and loss of payment, what we're trying to do. So we have a diagonal taxiway on the airport, Taxiway Delta, that is in the green on this photo location sheet. Diagonal taxiway that meets both the main runway, 523, and the crosswind runway, 1432, at a diagonal, and it also meets that runway right in their velocity zones in the middle one-third of the runway. Two no-nos as far as geometry, design for FAA design criteria are concerned. Why are we getting to this now, and why don't we fix, since it's a somewhat of a safety deficiency, why don't we fix it earlier? Well, pavement ages on airports, we do in 20-year cycles, so as pavement ages come up, we want to get a full use out of it before we do a project that's actually going to remove pavement. We don't want to remove good stuff, we want to remove the bad stuff. So some of the pavement that you're going to see that I'll talk about removing on this project is coming to the end of its 20-year cycle. So this is a good natural timing to get rid of that bad pavement and fix our geometric deficiencies with the taxiway. So that diagonal taxiway, Taxiway Delta, has the geometric deficiencies. Pilots, when they come to a runway at an odd angle, you can imagine looking over the sharp angle over your shoulder to see if there's a plane coming down the runway. Visibility in a plane is not nearly as good as it is in a car. And so under layman's terms, that's one of the big issues with what we're dealing with here. So we're going to remove that Taxiway Delta all the way from the terminal area, which is in the bottom right of your photo, all the way to the north ramp aircraft parking area, which is in the top right. All that pavement will be removed. We'll take out the base material, replace it with topsoil, and we'll seat it in place and be done with it. In place of that, we're going to do a true parallel taxiway with 90-degree angles meeting that crosswind runway. That is the yellow part that you see paralleling runway 1432, which is our crosswind runway. Now you're going to see some of the darker yellow areas and then some of the lighter. The lighter yellow represents new pavement. That's areas where to make it a true parallel taxiway, we actually have to add pavement to the airport. The darker stuff is existing taxiway. That again, that 20-year lifespan, that pavement is coming up on its 20-year cycle, and we are going to repave that in place. When you start to balance out the yellow with the green, the whole net effect of this is 1/2 acre less pavement on the airport in the finished condition over existing, 22,000 square feet and change. Net deduction in pavement with the project. And that's the important part. Now, with the changes that I'm mentioning, that whole taxiway will be called Taxiway Charlie now, all the way from the runway 32 end, which I'll call the Dunkin' Donuts end because it's a good landmark that everyone knows about. And then the 14 end on the left, which is the Merrimack River end. It'll be a full parallel from one end all the way to the other. And it'll be a true compliant taxiway. Now, 1-4 end, where we are doing that repaving, the darkish yellow area, repaving in place. There are two areas along that where we touch the outer edge of the buffer zone. So because that is the area of interest on the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, what I'd like Amy to do, if she can, is turn to sheet C501. And that is, it's well into the plan set. It's, keep going, keep going, keep going. Yep, keep going. Keep going. We're getting close. Oh, that was might have been it. Yep, go back. Go back. Two more. Yeah, right there it is. So sheet C501, what this shows is the 1-4 end, and what we highlighted in blue there, we highlighted it very well, is the 100-foot buffer zone. And those wetlands have been ones that we used 20 years ago when we did the notice of intent for Taxiway F right here. We used them for the vegetation management plan in 2006. These wetlands are TOA slope type wetlands and have been well documented over the years. So that 100-foot buffer zone that you see touches the project towards the middle of the taxiway, and the only thing we're doing, and it's about 90 feet away from that wetland, is repaving that taxiway in place. That area that we're working in is all very extremely level turf area, and it will remain very level turf area. I'll have you go one plan up. The second place that we will be touching the buffer zone, and this is a good close-up of, there's the Taxiway Delta pavement being removed, the green, and here we are repaving that Taxiway Foxtrot. And you can see that we're a little bit more into the buffer zone in that one location. We are 75 feet away at our closest point with that particular area. And again, that is repaving in place. But the edge lighting, they take a ditch witch trencher, we direct bury cable with new edge lighting. We're trying to go to LEDs on the airport. Saves Mike a lot of money on his electric bill, and they're more reliable. But unfortunately, LED is not a straight switch out with your old incandescent lighting. You got to change wiring, you got to change bulbs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have to replace all that edge lighting as well. And that's why the hay bales are set back a little bit more from the edge of the actual pavement than you'll see in other places. Now, the rest of the project, as we go down, I'll do it much more quickly just to show you that we're out of the buffer zone. Go down 2 more sheets, if you would. That one right there would be fine, I'm sorry. Nope, go back up one. Nope, up one. Sorry, that one right there. So here is the new pavement of Taxiway Charlie meeting the main runway, which is going kind of up and down. That's runway 523. So it's new pavement to there, and then a new pavement section between the existing Taxiway Alpha, the small one to your right going up and down, and the main runway as well. So there's 2 new areas of pavement, no buffer zone, no wetlands within even 300 or 400 feet of that particular location. Now if you go down one more, Amy, please. And this is the 3-2 end. If you all recall, we did a notice of intent for that runway safety area back in 2018. In fact, we just got a certificate of compliance for it, I think a year and a half ago on that one. In this end, we are taking pavement away. You can see the green from the edge of the existing taxiway, but we're adding pavement on the other side. This one had a slight little bend to it, and as long as we're going to be repaving it, we want to make sure it meets that straight geometry that is necessary. So cutting off pavement on one side of the taxiway, adding it to the other. The only buffer zone that comes close is that wetland area behind the businesses, including the Dunkin' Donuts. And you can see that blue line representing the limit of the 100-foot buffer zone. We will be staying outside of that. Now, we do have a drainage system on site, and we want to protect that. We have perimeter erosion controls in the form of fiber logs, fiber rolls, staked fiber rolls around the entire project. We also have fiber rolls, double fiber rolls around each catch basin, and then we're putting a silt sack in each catch basin as well, because that's going to be our biggest threat. It's not going to be the overland flow. We're extremely level, extremely dense turf, but we do have existing catch basins that we want to protect. Now, as we go through this, we want to upgrade our drainage system, so we are going to change out some of those catch basins with deep sump catch basins with the hoods on them, with the inverted funnels on them. So you'll see a lot of the catch basins, it'll say new, because we're replacing them with compliant deep sump 4-foot catch basins, where right now they're basically on grade. So we're taking this chance to as long as we have the materials and the equipment there, to go ahead and change out those catch basins at the same time. So that's it in a nutshell. Like I said, we touched the buffer zone in a couple places, but it's a very big project. Less than 3% of the project is actually in buffer zone. The other 97% is out in uplands. Very level and manageable. Typical project at the airport, we'll have full-time resident inspector on the site. Engineer from Stantec will be there full-time. Mike is there full-time. Contractor has not been selected yet. In fact, we don't expect a contractor to be selected until after the grant is issued later this summer. And because of how late things are running as far as supply chain issues, LED materials and transformers and things like that are very hard to come by right now. We don't expect supply chain to get us our materials in time to start this year. So this is likely a May 2023 project start. That's what we're anticipating right now because of the supply chain issues. And that's it. We're hoping you'll grant this project through a request for determination, given the protections that we have in place, given the small amount of area within actual jurisdiction, and with the protections and the full-time resident inspection that we have planned on the project. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
I'll start with Amy. If you have any questions or comments you want to.
I don't know with Randy and found them to be accurate. The areas of work in the buffer, I don't have any concern about, as long as, you know, erosion controls are installed and we have stockpiling that is, you know, out of the buffer. I think you have plenty of room for that.
Yeah.
Catch basin protection was something you know, pre-construction that I'll want to tour.
That's the biggest one.
Nothing
And I-
remarkable?
Yeah,
Nothing-
I mean,
nothing-
I wanted to make sure that you had that you knew that they did drainage calcs for this and that, you know, because I knew you may ask that, so.
Okay.
But other than that, I have no questions.
Joe?
So Randy started his presentation by saying he's been before us for nearly 20 years or more. You know, there's a lot of engineers who've done that, but never has one given such a thorough presentation that I have no questions.
Sounds
I'd
like,
like to leave you speechless.
that was, that's a high and inside fastball right there. Go ahead, Mayday.
No questions.
Nothing from Mayday Maven. Counselor? I'll round it. We have nothing else. What do you anticipate for conditions?
So, pre-construction to observe installed erosion controls, that includes catch basin protections, stockpile areas sited outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, and then post-construction site inspection to observe fully stabilized areas and approve removal of erosion controls.
Very good. Okay, we're ready for a motion.
So -3 with those conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There's none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Good
Always a
night.
pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank you for the rundown.
Thanks for coming around.
See you.
Thank you.
Okay, where am I? We're still in IDAs, 19 Ferncroft Circle.
Alrighty. Okay, so the proposed work involves tying in a 1.5-inch washing machine discharge pipe that is broken or never connected to the existing sewer line. I'm gonna pull up the aerial here. Access will be to the left of the house for work, and they hope to complete the work while the ground is still frozen. Excavation will occur 7 to 8 feet off the northwest corner of the house. Approximately 6 to 7 foot long, 5 to 6 wide trench will be excavated at a depth of 3 to 4 feet. Small track excavator will be used for excavation, and if conditions are right, they propose backfilling a truck up to take the soil off-site directly. Field inspector performed a site inspection and confirmed that the work is occurring approximately 51 feet from the BBW at its closest point, and that's a very conservative measurement. So I would recommend closing the hearing, issuing a -3 with pre-construction condition, reviewing the means and methods of work, and observe installed erosion controls, and a post-construction inspection to verify compliance and approve removal of erosion controls upon stabilized conditions.
Joseph?
No questions. Reasonable request.
I guess I just don't understand one of the parts of the project. There's a 6 to 7 foot long trench that's 5 to 6 feet wide. But the line goes much longer than
Well,
that, so I'm
no,
just wondering
so
what the purpose of that is.
Okay, so the long blue line represents the existing sewer.
Okay,
And so the connection of, there's,
it sounds like the total disturbance is 7 feet by
Right.
6 feet.
right, in the orange
Okay,
highlight.
got it.
So it's not
They're
a
not
new
digging the
sewer
full
line.
length.
It's not a new sewer line. It's connecting the washing machine to the existing
So the
sewer.
old gray water line went out back.
Yes.
They're abandoning that and just gonna tie into the existing line.
Right.
It's gonna be at that area where they need to make that connection.
Right.
You have no further questions?
If I may, I have a question. The sewer line runs from the house to the sewer in the street, correct? There is a sewer line, a solid
Yes.
sewer line,
Yes.
not septic.
Right.
The washing machine is located where?
It's in the house.
In the house. Why isn't the washing machine being hooked up to the soil pipe in the house? Why does it have to be hooked up out in the yard? Where did this thing discharge before? I mean, I have a washing machine in my
Yeah.
house, and it ties in the basement right there.
Right.
Why can't that be accomplished? I mean, I don't see a need to dig the yard up.
Right.
About 25 years ago, I had a gray water washing machine.
Sure.
A lot of people did.
I get it.
And they went out back and to connect, when I did my addition,
Yeah.
first addition,
Yeah.
to alleviate that concern, I literally had to move the washing machine to the back of the house where the sewer was.
Yeah.
The plumbing just by gravity inside my cellar didn't work. Don't know if that's the case here.
Yeah.
But on my case, I had to literally replumb the cellar to make that alternative go away.
How old is this house?
I have no idea.
Oh,
Ferncroft, they're built in the early 70s,
I think so.
south, off of
I mean,
Bradford,
it's
South Bradford.
not a 100-year-old house. It's a reasonably not old house. I'm just asking the question, is it necessary to dig when there ought to be a soil pipe connection within the confines of the house?
Good question. I'm only going by what FP Riley has given me for information.
Okay.
Is there anybody here on behalf of the applicant?
No, but I invited them.
Okay.
Has the plumbing, we don't have a full-time plumbing inspector anymore, do we? Have they chimed in on this, as, you know, do they want this to come inside the house, and is it possible?
They had one about a year ago.
I don't think so.
No, okay.
I mean, I don't know if they're aware of it yet. I knew that FP Riley knew they had to do excavation, and they knew there was a wetland. And they, you know, so I think they knew that we were probably the first step.
And I hate to speculate from the table, but, I mean,
I mean,
if inside plumbing was possible, that would be the cheaper
Yeah.
and more readily available alternative than having to dig outside, but I think it's a valid question that Al raises, you know, why would you do it? Especially if
I mean,
how far away, how close is
We-
the nearest
we-
wetland?
We could only guess.
well, we shouldn't have to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need,
You're not here for Ferncroft, are you? No, okay, just want to make sure.
well, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask that we table this. And-
Okay.
and,
Well, let me come around here first.
oh, I'm sorry.
So, I mean, so is it 51 feet from the wetland?
Yes.
So I'd only recommend that we stake something there and make sure that it's, you know, measured, and measured twice before they dig or do anything like that. Yeah. Just a-
So we stay 51 feet and protect it, it makes it an RDA regardless of whether it's necessary or not, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that, you know, there are certain restrictions we put on things like that, and when we get that close to a wetland for an RDA, we don't always have restrictions in that we otherwise would. So, not restrictions, but just inspections, whatever we need to do to make sure they stay outside that 50-foot area.
I mean, do we know how long the house has been on sewer? Was it converted from septic to sewer in recent times, or was it always on sewer?
Yeah, I'm not
Because it
sure.
sounds like the washing machine was discharging either into a dry well or an old sewer.
Yeah, this is the, forget the guy, was it O'Connor?
So the
developer
house-
Back in the 70s, that box
The
line
house w-
off of Great Pond Road?
Yeah, the house was built in 1969.
Yeah, it was the early 70s.
Okay, so not
And there was
an,
no sewer out there at the time.
there was no sewer,
Right,
but
so-
now there is. I mean, here's what I'm asking, and then I'm gonna stop talking, you guys can move it. The rest of the water in the house comes out a line and goes to the sewer. Everything else in the house, the showers, the bathtubs, the sink, everything has to come out of one line and take that one soil pipeline to the sewer. That's what it has to do. How is the washing machine missing that? I just,
I don't know.
And I'm gonna leave it at that,
It's a
and,
valid question. I think I can
And-
guess the answer is, those are all split entry houses. It's a finished basement. They don't want to get into laying a pipe in finished rooms. But I think it's a valid question. We need to answer before we could
well,
call an
I'm gonna leave
RDA.
it, I'm gonna leave it to you guys. I'll do whatever you want. If you wanna move it, you can move it. If you wanna get more information, you can get more information. I just had to ask the question.
Well, I think your question is consistent with the MACC approach to dealing with projects, which is avoid, minimize, mitigate. And this would be an opportunity to avoid by following your train of thought, Al. So I would move that we just continue this and have some answers as to whether it can or cannot be avoided.
Okay.
Second, I agree with that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Nobody else here to speak on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Stands continued. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make sure a representative is here next. I'll get more answers and make sure rep is at the meeting.
Okay, we're at the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation 242-1824, 177 Great Pond Road.
So the commission will recall at the last meeting requesting that agricultural areas be removed from the ANRAD plan. We have a revised plan that shows that. And I prepared a draft decision so you guys could close and issue that ORAD. I know Maureen is on the call with us this evening. So I don't know if you have any follow-up questions or if Maureen had anything else to say.
So what we left open was exactly that, taking the agricultural designations off the plan. I see that's happened. We had a tangential conversation among others, but one in particular was regarding the chicken coop. And I don't think we went to the point of calling it a violation or not, but I think there was some question whether it was, not exempt and therefore it might be a violation. But we're not acting on that. We're only acting on the line at this point. So the chicken coop is no part of this decision.
It's not part of the facts and findings.
Okay,
So the ANRAD is silent
good.
with respect to new construction.
Got it. I'm all set. Thank you.
No questions.
Sean?
Is the chicken coop on the map?
Yes,
Yep.
right here, Sean. This square, this rectangle here, which I don't think is listed on the facts and findings. It's not listed on the facts and findings.
Let me ask you this, if it's shown on the plan, are we de facto approving its existence, or it's no different than any other use that's now not shown on the plan? I guess we'll leave that to Sean. If it's shown on the plan.
Well,
I mean, it's there.
This gets filed or not?
And Red's get filed.
ANRAD gets.
They get-
They get recorded.
they do get recorded?
Well, they can be, right?
Well, they should be.
They
They're
can
valid,
be.
it's a valid approval of the line for a period of 3 years minimum.
It's fileable, in other words.
It's fileable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what is filed with this? Just the document? Just the drawing?
The WPA form
Yep.
and the findings.
Is there any place for comment?
What's that?
Is there any place in there for comment from the commission?
Specifically to
I suppose
the,
you could.
well, specifically to the facts and findings. In other words,
The ORAD is an area for comment,
Okay.
the ORAD itself.
So if we could comment someplace on that document that the chicken coop shown on there has not been approved by the commission, I think it would alleviate any concerns that we would have about it being on the plan.
could that comment go on to the facts and findings?
It probably could. It probably could also go.
And also be noted on
On the notes.
on the record drawing for the ANRAD, just to,
Absolutely.
because everything else is as requested. All the other resource areas are found as requested, but for the area with the, described as the coop area. which I think we discussed at the last meeting, we said would require its own permit application, if my memory's correct. We said that would have to be,
The coop?
the coop.
Yes.
Yeah, am I right, Maureen? Is that what we said?
Yes, at the last hearing, Commissioner Manzi, you suggested we file an after-the-fact RDA for the chicken coop.
Yes.
And essentially, we'll relocate it away from that area as shown on the.
Thank you. That I remember, that was my recommendation. Thank you very much. So they intend to come forward with an after-the-fact filing for that. So I guess if we can acknowledge that somewhere.
Yeah.
I hear you say relocate?
Well, if necessary.
Well,
Yeah,
if
it
necessary.
very well may be the case.
Yep, I didn't know if it was voluntarily saying they were gonna relocate.
Well, they're filing after the fact at our request.
Yep, yep.
They wanted the ANRAD to be able to stand on its own four corners,
Yeah.
which it
Yeah.
does.
And I can add that into the findings.
Okay, and the findings get filed as well.
And it sounds like they'll be bringing an application forward at some point.
Right.
That's what I'm taking.
And I think we're safe.
Thank you.
And I don't see anybody, you guys here for this? No? So there's nobody else? No neighbors or abutters here? Ready for a motion?
Did we go around?
We
I think Sean responded to me. Okay, good.
Well, I'm sorry. If you have more comments or concerns, we don't have to move. We can keep going.
No, I think we're set.
I'm all set.
I'm hearing all set.
So this is a public hearing, so the motion is to close the public hearing and issue a notice of.
ORAD decision.
Yeah, notice of determination. Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous on the ORAD. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen. All right. Enforcement order and violation notices. 40 Flagship Drive. This is continued from 1/26/22.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in
Did I miss-
reviewing this, preparing for this particular hearing, I recommend that we not get into specifics of conversations with council and any guidance we may have obtained, but just, we've all read it, we know what that guidance is, but, that's not pertinent to your public hearing.
I agree. I believe our purpose here on this is simply to validate the enforcement order.
Very good.
We have Bill Linsky on the call today, so, just so you're aware.
Okay, so have they been served with this document? Do they have it?
They have been served with fines to date with the notification that the commission intends to record the enforcement order.
Okay.
So I have a recordable enforcement order for you to approve and sign tonight so that I
Okay.
can take it to the registry.
Okay, so is there anything that we are not aware of that we need to be brought to, or are we ready to move the document
I
forward?
think there's one, says we have the applicant, or the party, online with us tonight. One thing that's been really lingering here is filing the NOI, which is one of the underlying requirements, which is really remains in violation for a long term. Where do they stand in that process? Recognizing they're in violation up to this moment.
Well, I don't know, and frankly, I'm not asking the question anymore.
Okay.
That's been asked and answered, in my humble opinion, but any member at this table is free to ask inquire. We'll start with you, Joe, and we'll work our way down.
No, I agree. I mean, we've been extremely, I'm not gonna say lenient, but reasonable is the better word, with allowing the process to move forward and to get all his ducks in a row, consultant-wise and application-wise, and get it before us, but we just haven't seen anything on that front making any really good faith effort, moving towards that conclusion. So, I think we're rock solid in that being part of the original order of a violation, and certainly part of the enforcement order, documented now. So I'm all set. And again, that right up to this moment, it remains in violation, and all future performance does is address the question of how long the fines run. So I'm all set, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that jumps out at me is the lack of a notice of intent, which obviously is hanging over the applicant's head, and I'll leave it to the applicant. I guess my question is, are you close to filing one? Have you been in communication with our administrative staff to kind of work through a good notice of intent that will satisfy the enforcement order? So you can answer or not answer, it's up to you. But that's what is the source of, the significant source of fines that have accrued to this time, and I think you should have a chance to answer and try and move this forward. So,
Can you hear me?
yes.
So, right now, we have the draft NOI, but when we went to get the signatures from, I think it was 85 Flagship, which is one of the impacted areas, the owner listed on the NOI that Norse Prepared wasn't correct, so we kind of spun our wheels trying to find the right owner. We've since contacted those gentlemen, and they have a management company in place, it's a condo association. And through this week, we've been going back and forth trying to explain what the NOI does, and there's been some dialogue between us, Norse, and those parties, and we should be pretty close to getting that last signature, but that's really been the only thing holding it up. It's been drafted for several weeks at this point.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. It sounds like you're working through some details that'll be necessary to submit that properly, and I'd encourage you to, continue on that path and communicate with Amy at North Andover Town Hall to, make sure what you put out there is going to be, well accepted and complete. So thank you, Bill.
Sean?
No question.
Okay, so, the Commission's asked all their questions. Amy, so what do you need now? You have an enforcement order that's ready to be, and a draft in front of us?
Yep.
To be recorded?
Right, so it
Does this
basically,
require an affirmative vote from this commission
Yes.
to record?
yeah,
Okay.
to approve it and record it.
Ratify and record.
Ratified and
I
recorded.
have a motion to ratify and record.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Maybe a future matter we want to discuss in a separate meeting under maybe a special session, but I don't think we should tonight.
I would
No.
defer any other discussion or
that.
comments or concerns to any new information that may occur or the actual receipt of an application for a notice of intent.
I agree.
I strongly recommend we have no other conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
All right, take care.
Yep, you too.
Continuing with enforcement orders, 64 Nutmeg Lane, continued from 1/26/22.
We've been waiting for a notice of intent for that. We received it. It will be on the January 23rd agenda.
Okay, so the notice of intent has been filed?
Yep,
Excellent.
and so I would just keep the enforcement order in place because it is a cease and desist.
Yep.
So we'll just let it ride along, and then, once we issue an order, I think
We can lift it.
lift it.
No questions?
No question.
So there's nothing we have to do, we don't have to
No,
ratify
just
it or
an
anything?
update.
All
No.
right, take no action, great.
Let's move on.
Okay.
New business, old business. What are you guys here for? I'm sorry?
Foster Street?
Emergency cert.
Emergency cert. Okay, very good. Let's go right to it. Didn't realize that. Let's go right to emergency cert.
All right, so, Chair and Vice Chair authorized me to issue an emergency certification for the, whoops, I don't know how that happened, sorry about that. For a heating oil spill.
Yeah. But yes, I am.
And I,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
so they started to excavate the soils on the side of the roadway, the fuel impacted soils.
So, can
Go ahead.
we just back up a little? I just want to ask a couple quick questions. We know that it was an overturned truck that caused a spill of heating oil.
Yes.
Do we know how many gallons of heating oil were spilled?
Oh, good, Alan.
The truck should have had a record of what was on board.
Right. So we have the LSP with us now. He just got on the call.
Okay.
Hello, this is Alan.
Hi, how are you?
Alan,
Good, thank you.
So
Walker.
I was just inquiring, how many gallons of heating oil spilled from the truck into Mosquito Brook?
Who's it?
How much was on the truck?
Approximately
Yeah.
500 to 800 gallons were lost. That's the best estimate we have.
Is that how much was on the truck, or was there more on the truck?
I think was near capacity for the truck, but I can't speak definitively about that. I could get the information, however.
I mean, I personally think that's a really important question. What was on the truck prior to the spill? And did the truck empty its load, or was it just running low with only 500, 800 gallons, which is kind of low? I think that's something that I'd like to know.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know how far downstream the oil had traveled before containment booms were put up to capture it.
All good questions there. I can tell you from when I was first notified, it was reported to me to be approximately 800 gallons.
Okay?
And that was coming from the owner, but I will go back and verify that because others had said it could have been as low as 500 gallons. So I'll tighten that up.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I'd like to tighten up is, from the time of the spill to the time of containment, how far downstream had the oil traveled? This time of year, that's a pretty active stream. The water's high, the flow rate's pretty good. It could have taken it a great distance. Do we know the distance? And did the containment boom that was put up adequately contain the oil, or did oil continue to escape downstream?
I can speak specifically to it because I ended up going there that evening, and it was, we were doing our best. We had booms out in place, and they were putting pads down and recovering various locations, but it was definitely migrating under the bridge and into the wetland. And with the snow and darkness, it really was difficult to try to identify it much further downstream. At least at that point. Others went back at a later date and, tried to look for it, but there is that boom that's placed, I don't know if it's 100 yards downstream from the bridge. And there were impacts noted there, but much less than at the bridge area. And then there was also a boom placed further down, downstream by the DEP, over by, I'm trying to think of the name of that. Excuse me for a minute. It was over near development. I apologize, I can't recall the name of the road right now.
Was it Bridges Lane?
Long Pond Lane, actually. There we go.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to let the commission ask questions right now. Thank you. Joe?
So given the uncertainty of the, of how far it migrated, I guess I would expect is we go far enough downstream and find results that are not positive from an oil spill perspective, but positive from an environmental perspective, and start working away upstream to see how far down the plume may have extended. Those first two booms have probably provided some benefit, but what we don't know is what's escaped further downstream and what mitigations are necessary. So have you, as you or Clean Harbors, gone further downstream to help create a bracket of where that impact area may be and start working away upstream to minimize that?
That is a goal, but with the blizzard, it just made it, too difficult and too dangerous to go out there to look for that. And then even with the snow cover, it's highly unlikely you would be able to see it.
So is it a visual? Is it a water and quality analysis? Is it olfactory? You can smell fuel oil in the air. I mean, there are all kinds of indicators rather than simply seeing something, on the snow cover.
That's correct, but I was there the evening of the release, and clearly it was noticeable there. But even at walking down 50, 100 feet downstream, you couldn't smell really anything. And we had a boom, like I said, it was probably 75, 100 yards down, and there were no impacts being noted at that location. But later in the daylight, the next day, people reported that they could see little sheens and things like that on the surface water at that point. And then, frankly, since then, we really haven't been able to get out there to safely look for it, other than driving down to that Lost Pond Lane and looking at that. And at the most recent time it was reviewed, it was during the hard freeze, and pretty much everything was frozen up, so you really couldn't see anything.
So this is one of those areas where the jurisdictions almost cross, where DEP had a role in the very beginning as an emergency response because of the volume of product that was released. So they were on the scene pretty early on in the event, but at some point in time, the emergency response from DEP's perspective was surrendered over to Clean Harbors and yourself in order to move forward. So again, that's the 21E, that's the release aspect of it. Where we sit at this table is, that's all bureaucracy and mitigation part of it, but from us is the impact of the environment itself. That's what we need to concern ourselves with, and the timeliness of that, and then moreover, what is the extended plan and what does that look like? Recognizing fully this is only an emergency certification to allow you to do certain activities for 30 days at a time. We're already 14 days into that process at least. Because I think it happened just before our last meeting, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say call it 15 days.
2 days.
And so literally we have, under emergency certification we're about to give, only, is this retroactive emergency cert? Is it 30 days from
No.
tonight or 30 days from that,
It was,
the event?
Start date of January 27th, end date February 26th.
Yes, that's what I'm saying is,
Right.
so with all the uncertainty we're talking about, we're about to act on, the only emergency certification we can give is just one, and it's only good to that deadline, so it's only a couple weeks away, and we don't have much information.
That's exactly right, but I'll wait my turn.
So I guess the point is exactly that, is the emergency certification just allows them to do activities for a very narrow window of time, but moreover is we need, at some point, they need to file an NOI. Part of the emergency certification is what are you doing, when are you going to do it specifically, and what permits might we grant.
But this occurred on January 27th, in the evening hours.
24th.
No,
And Amy
Yeah,
visited the 25th.
it happened on a Monday? I seem to recall not being able to get home.
Yeah, it was Monday.
It was Monday.
So I guess that's what I'm saying, is the matter that's before us tonight's emergency certification,
Yeah,
it's got a very narrow window, of which it's already half closed.
Right.
So this is almost a feel-good proposition. What we really should be focusing our conversation on is, moving on from this, we need an NOI filed, and we need to file within a deadline.
Well, that's where I was going with my
Okay,
line,
so I surrender the floor to
with
you.
my
now.
line of questioning, but
Yeah, with a spill of heating oil, the emergency certification is, I believe, licensed to go in and remediate soils and water, groundwater, surface water. So where this happened, where the spill happened on the 24th was that Amy had a site walk on the 25th. authorized the start date of the 27th. After the 27th, can you go take us through what has gone on in terms of soil and surface water remediation to date?
Okay. And I can provide to you as well, the project manager for like the crews that are out there working, and he's been out there since the initiation of the release. And he's tallied up, based on what they've collected and have taken for treatment or disposal, an estimate of the oil in the various trips that have been taken for that. And he's come up with that he thinks it's probably 300 to 500 gallons of oil have been recovered based on measurements within the tanker trucks and vacuum trucks that were collecting the oil.
Excuse me, sir. Could you back up a minute and could you start at has excavation of contaminated soils begun?
Yes.
Okay, and approximately how many yards of contaminated soils have been excavated, analyzed, removed, remediated? How much is out of the ground?
Probably about 30 yards, and this is along the roadside where the release occurred.
Now, after removal of those 30 yards, you've got a hole, and there's probably a reason why you stopped at 30 yards. What's the condition of the soil remaining in the hole? Have you removed, in other words, have you removed the entire plume of contaminated soil?
They're actually going to be back there tomorrow to continue on, so it's like an ongoing, because that wasn't done initially. We couldn't get out there before the blizzard, and then after the blizzard, it took us a while to be able to get crews together and police detail to be on hand to help with conducting the excavation work safely. And they're due to be back there again tomorrow to continue with it.
My understanding is you continue to excavate until you analyze the soil and you analyze it to be free from contaminant. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not. It sounds like you're not quite there to that point.
No, that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
You know, they're out there with the field screening, to get an estimate of what is remaining with regards to impacts, and then we collect a sample and submit that for laboratory analysis to confirm the field observations.
Well, it's not getting any better as the days go by, so I'd urge you to get to the point of virgin soil and drive that stake in the ground as quickly as you can. Can you take us through what is the process for the contaminated surface water?
I can, but it's really a short story. There's
short is good.
With regards to the short story, it's pretty much what was done during the initial days of it, when there was still oil that could be captured, mostly in the bridge area there, upstream and downstream of that. And they did quite a bit initially with the vacuum trucks pumping out what they could, skimming it off the ice and things like that. And that's probably when they had the biggest recovery of material, was during the first couple days there, because then after that, as you can imagine with the flowing river, that it doesn't hang around there too long, and it migrates downstream.
Okay, I understand it better. Thanks. I'll hand it down the table.
Sean?
I don't have any questions at this time.
So, as part of, I think we expect a notice of intent to come forward. And I think as part of that notice of intent, we're going to be looking for a timeline, along with quantified gallons and distance downstream, it sounds like there was a tremendous time lag at some point. I don't know, from the time lag from the initial spill to the first containment boom, or after the first containment boom when there was a storm and there was more downtime, how many days or weeks went by before the next, leading up to the ultimate real problem. Mosquito Brook is a strong flowing river. It terminates in the Ipswich River. Since this spill took place on the 24th January, it's likely that it's already in the Ipswich River. The soil removal is important, I don't disagree, but the amount of gallons that just simply went free-flowing down that river, and it's a well-flowing river. I'm sure you've observed, it's moving right
Yes.
along, there's no obstructions. How far downstream have we gone to detect limits of flow? For example, just a mere 200 yards east of the spill are some of the biggest vernal pools the town has. And has any investigation been done there to determine if those vernal pools have been inundated with oil? Let alone the Ipswich River.
Yep. I can't really speak to that because this was the first time I've heard about the vernal pools, and you know, as I indicated,
They're mapped and recorded, just for your reference. All right, I think what we're probably going to do is we're going to ask that you file a notice of intent, and are there any?
You're saying you, and I guess we have the homeowner here tonight. And what we have is an oil company, a vendor to the homeowner. This is on your property.
We don't have any association with the oil company. They're not our vendors.
Could you please?
Oh, they just
approach
have,
the
they just have to.
microphone?
If you wait, hold on.
Oh, they weren't delivering to your house.
Wait,
They were just driving by.
Joe, hold on.
Congratulations.
Joe, hold on 1 second. Just, Mr.
Walker.
Mr. Walker, just, we're gonna interview the homeowners here for a minute. Would you just stay with us on the line?
sure.
All right, thank you.
So I asked the question just for clarification of when you said you.
So
You
what-
are going to file. So who is it we're asking to file?
Well, I'm asking the person, to answer your question, I want the LSP to file a notice of intent on behalf of
Hilton Oil.
Hilton Oil. who's-
Responsible party.
That's who I think should be
Responsible
filing that, or that's where I think the NOI should be coming from, not from the homeowners. But if you want to talk to them for a moment, why don't you tell us your name and address and where you live in relation to the oil spill?
And you know, they are represented by counsel.
Sure.
We are
The-
represented, yes.
Lawson White.
So we're just looking for information, we're not,
Oh, yeah, so we own 242 Foster Street, Megan and Jared on one.
you own, what number?
242, it is
242.
right,
So that's the home.
it's the house that the oil,
Adjacent to the creek.
so, I
Okay.
mean, we
So-
actually,
Yep.
we own the wetlands upstream of the bridge,
Yep.
where all of the oil was initially dumped.
As you're going down Foster, you on the left or the right?
We are on the left.
On the
we're
left, okay, sure.
The Gray Cape, right on the corner of Bridges.
Bridges and
Yeah.
Foster.
Yep.
Yeah, so right there.
So
Okay,
the
sure.
accident was a little bit further up at 216 Foster, and spill ran down the street and then ran into the creek, which is on our property. So it pooled in that creek until the Clean Harbors could get their vacuum trucks in there. But it was sitting on top of ice for days, and also coming through the ice. Most of the creek was ice covered during the spill, so the booms that they put up were only in the patches that they get access to the water. But from what I could observe, I could see oil sheens, and most likely it was traveling underneath the ice down, further down this creek. With the storm and the blizzard exacerbated it even more by covering everything, and then not giving them access to put any more containment of the oil on top of the water that was in the water. And then the subsequent melt off in the past few days has both swollen the creek on our side of the street and across in the wetlands, which has spread some of the red color around the original containment area where it was originally spilled. So there's quite a bit of oil from what I can see observation-wise
both on our property that has spread from the original concentration that you might see in the early pictures, and also probably some of it has migrated downstream underneath the ice, past most of the containment booms that were set up initially. So we're just here to sort of get information on what kind of process and what kind of things they're going to look at going forward as they, go from emergency phase to long-term phase.
Okay, well, thank you. And as I look at the map, I know it probably doesn't need to be said, but the town of North Andover is a substantial landowner, and our property is subject to a tremendous amount of that. In fact, all of it. We're subject to all of it.
And that was the clarification I was seeking when I said, when you kept referring to you, the pronoun you, are going to file.
Well,
The
let me-
reality is we want the responsible party, but we're gonna need the cooperation of the impacted parties to grant access to those lands, because they're gonna be required, perhaps, to do work on property that they have no control over.
So that, yes, and I think a notice of intent is
Is the way to do
essential.
that.
But my most immediate concern, because I live in the area too, that water is flowing, that's big water right now. And since the 24th, you could experiment and drop a buoy marker in that water and watch how far it gets in just 4 or 5 hours. That oil, if it's not all the way to the Ipswich River, I won't understand why. Because they didn't get the booms far enough downstream fast enough. There's just no way they did. It just didn't happen fast enough. Excavating the soil, I don't have a problem with that. My problem are the downstream impacts, and I'm looking for information on that, but at the same time, simultaneously, I want to see a notice of intent filed. I agree with you that it should be filed by the owner of the truck. And I guess that's, without beating it up too much, I think that's where I am.
Just a quick question. Did the truck tip over on public property? Yes.
It was on the public road, yeah.
It was on a public road. It didn't fall on somebody, tip over in somebody's yard, or end up somebody's yard,
I
stop
mean,
leaking
it
there?
ended up perhaps going up the driveway of somebody's house, but
Yep.
there's a curve, that curve right
Yeah, so-
on Foster. I
So-
don't know if he was
so-
going too fast or,
216.
So, right
216,
here?
yeah,
This
right there.
one?
Yeah, so
Yes.
they got a lot of fuel in their front yard, not the front yard, but adjacent to the road right in front of their house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where the excavation has been started at earlier
Okay.
this week, because we see the crews out there every day for the past couple days.
Okay,
But I don't know what,
and then it ran down the street?
Ran
ran
down
down the
into
street.
And then,
we actually have drone footage if you would
Oh,
like
really?
it. We do.
that's cool.
The flow goes that way, it goes east.
It goes this
Yeah,
way?
That's the way it flows, yeah. The flow goes from the spill location east to the right.
Shit,
It
okay.
comes from.
All right, so
This is
that,
downstream, the downstream
right.
impacts.
so this,
So that's, yeah, so it's all, the entire length of Mosquito through the town property, through the Foster Farm property, is the impacted property.
Well, I think under 21E, it's the responsible party.
I think so too.
I think it's pretty clear who the responsible party is, so why
So
wouldn't we
who-
make them the applicant?
So let me ask, the LSP, who's he work for?
he's working for
Hilton.
Hilton, Clean Harbors, but
The on this application,
as
Hilton's the
engaged by Hilton Oil.
Correct.
Right,
Okay, so then it would be the LSP on behalf of his client, who I believe should be submitting an NOI for this.
Hilton Oil.
Well, wouldn't the applicant be Hilton Oil?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
But he's working for them.
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
but in the end, it's not
Hilton
gonna
Oil
be,
is
it's not gonna be Mr.
responsible.
Walker on the application, it's gonna be Hilton
Okay,
Oil.
Hilton
good
Oil.
enough. I will be satisfied with whoever you can talk to initiate the NOI.
Do you want to get the
Understood.
enforcement order?
Yes. Yes, if we,
Be
if,
careful, so you've issued already an emergency cert, which
Yeah.
we need to ratify. They're in
No.
compliance with that emergency certification until a date certain.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not in violation until the day after that emergency cert runs out.
Yeah.
So these activities can continue until our next meeting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I want the activities to continue. I
And
agree.
then the
Yes, of
enforcement
course.
action has to happen.
I thought it could happen at the same
Yeah, I
time.
thought it could too.
I thought it could be simultaneous.
If we say at the expiration of the emergency cert on February 26th, by that date, and
I would like to, I would
Such
think
and
they
such
could
will be
file
filed.
the NOI
Just
on
like that date.
before.
yeah,
Okay.
On or before, Joe. If they can get it done quick enough, get it, the sooner the better.
Well, you're talking about giving a deadline to do that, that's fine, but to issue an enforcement order now when they're not in violation of anything, because they're working under an emergency cert. They're not in violation right now, how can you give them an enforcement order right now?
Well,
They're not in violation
how
of
do you
anything.
compel a notice of intent? Just ask for it?
I think you put it in the emergency cert that they shall file at the expiration of the emergency certification, they shall have a notice of intent ready to be filed.
Done.
good idea.
Okay,
Include it right in the emergency cert document.
so I'll agree with
But
you.
it's not an enforcement action, it's a condition of the emergency cert.
Joe, I hear you. Go ahead and do it.
Special condition, right?
Yep.
Brilliant.
So your motion is to issue a revised emergency certification requiring a notice of intent to be filed by,
I don't know. I'm not, I'm not gonna put a date on it. Just file it. Do you think,
Okay.
or do you think we have to give a date certain?
Actually,
I propose a date.
All right, go ahead.
Actually, Alan,
Go ahead,
Joe Lynch here. Under emergency certification documentation under the Act, Wetlands Protection Act, has an immediate release action plan been filed and approved by DEP yet?
No, it has not yet.
Okay, so that is 30 days. If one was in place, that extends to 60 days. So this is going to expire in those 2 weeks that we're talking about.
okay.
So that's the date you want to cite, is that date, the 30-day date.
30 days
The
is,
30 days date?
Yep, 30 days from January 27th.
so is
Which
that
is February
February
26th?
26th?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to let you know that I emailed you the drone footage.
Oh, thank you.
So it gets filed on the 26th, and when does it come in front of us?
Maybe the 27th. End of the emergency cert is February 26th. So maybe we ask them to file it on the 26th.
That's a Saturday. February 26th is Saturday.
In all honesty, I don't think we have to tie it into that end date. If we're making a condition here, we can tie it into whatever, it doesn't need to be tied into anything, you can just set a date.
Okay.
I think it's just giving them a reasonable amount of time to do it, more than it is tied into that date.
Continue the emergency activities and at the same time.
Right.
Preparing
File an
it.
NOI by
Right.
blank. What is blank? What do you guys think? What's a reasonable amount of time?
4 weeks?
Middle of March?
I mean, I'm just,
So think about this. The emergency cert allows them to continue doing whatever's necessary, just on our blessing.
Yeah.
That window closes, they
Enforcement
go away. So whatever, there's no more activity allowed.
Right.
At that point, we can do an enforcement
Then we
order.
have to file an enforcement order.
But at that point, we can do an enforcement order.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, and that one could cite the date for an NOI.
I think this one
I
can
think it's-
too. But I would set a date for an NOI here, and then when this expires, assuming that NOI date hasn't already come up, that it's gonna be in March, we enter an enforcement order to kind of pick up where this left off. And that way, everything is, one thing's not waiting for another, everything can kind of move at the same time.
I agree with that.
So what's a,
It's some date in March. We haven't picked the date yet.
what's a reasonable, 4 weeks, did you guys say?
well, the filing deadline is, a filing deadline, if we give them 4 weeks, a filing deadline would be coming up in like 2, right? So is that a reasonable amount of time to be prepared to file in 2 weeks?
For an NOI?
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. That's plans and surveys and all that shit.
Although that should be
Survey
happening.
on the phone.
That's why we want to do it now.
Yeah.
Get it rolling.
Well,
Maybe have them file for the second meeting in March?
no,
No,
that's,
too long?
so 2 weeks is the 23rd, 4 weeks is the 9th of March.
Let's say it's the 9th of March.
The,
At that point, we can revisit the reasonableness of that date,
9th of March?
9th of March.
9th of March.
And you can reconsider it on February 27th when you
So we're
put the
just
enforcement order in
adding
place.
this language to the cert.
Right, so
When does the cert expire?
27th.
26.
February
Okay, good, so we'll be bringing, we want them to come back on the 9th with an NOI. And
So-
if some consideration is needed, we have that time between that and the 26th to take action.
So we want to open a hearing on a notice of intent on March 9th? Is that what you're saying? Or do you want a notice of intent in hand by March 9th? And then whatever agenda it can get on after that? Because
March 9th is 4 weeks, right?
March 9th, but the filing deadline for March 9th meeting
Is
is
what?
February 24th.
All right, is that too far, is
That's-
that too soon?
That's 2 weeks from here.
So,
Too soon? You guys know better than I do.
I don't
on
know,
this.
they're already working on site, I mean,
I think it's a reasonable first shot.
Yeah, why not?
We can
Yes,
re-
I-
we
I-
can
Why not set it
revisit- We can
there?
Yeah.
revisit it.
Yep, yep.
set it there, if we have to, we can kick it.
Feet to the fire, as they say.
So submitted by February 24th.
Yep.
Yes,
2 weeks.
yes.
Okay.
Can I just have
Yep,
clarification?
go ahead. Yep,
So it originally said March 9th to have the NOI, but now it's February?
So March 9th would be the meeting date. The filing date to meet the March 9th is the 24th.
4th.
24th is the minimum submittal date for March 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any
Just,
further, any
and just for
further?
the homeowners here, thank you, 'cause I was confused. I thought they were making a delivery to your house and it happened on your property.
No, this clearly
Yeah,
happened
thank
while
you for clarifying
while
that.
operation was
Yeah.
taking place on Foster
Went
Street.
too fast on the curve.
So,
Yeah, but
well,
it-
we've done
it
a
was
lot of
during-
procedural things here, and a lot of it seems like bureaucracy, but in the interest, we're protecting our downstream interest as well as yours.
Exactly.
Collectively, we're all trying to do the same thing.
Exactly, we just,
Oh, we're trying to anyway,
Yeah.
so we'll see how we do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've already seen dead animals and.
No doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And
already
the
been,
stress.
it's already been too many weeks.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really, really just.
That's why I mentioned the Vernal Pools to the east of the spill. If you
Yes,
follow
under the
the river,
power
follow the river east, maybe 400 yards, you're into the first area of Vernal Pools, which this commission certified some years ago.
yeah,
Late night certification.
it's part of that purchase, right?
Yes, exactly, to require the open space.
That's exactly, no, that's exactly correct. You're-
Exactly.
Okay.
I want to make sure we have a motion and a second and all in favor.
So the motion is to ratify the emergency certification as amended.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous.
All right. Thank you, Alan, for coming to the meeting. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Al.
Yes. Hey, quick question on the
Yep.
vernal pools. Do you have a document noting where they're located so we can use that information?
Yep, so.
We do.
Yes, I can give you a link to that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
I see only one item left on the agenda. It talks about performance bond calculation updates. Just ask the question, do we have any updates to the discussion we had at the last meeting with respect
I
to?
have none.
I move we continue that topic then.
Motion and a second to continue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is unanimous. I see nothing left on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have the ORAD?
Oh, yes.
We have to go through it,
Yeah, just, yep. Could you close the hearing, just review the decision and vote to actually issue it?
Say it again?
So you guys moved to close the ORAD hearing.
Yes.
Yep.
So just review that draft decision and move to issue it.
Okay.
You circulated that already, and I saw nothing out of the ordinary.
Well, we were gonna add, this is the findings that are gonna go with,
Yes.
Yes, and we were gonna add the
amend
language.
to
We were gonna add
talk
language.
about
That-
the
that's
proof
absolutely
that-
correct.
that is not approved.
Not approved, and it
Correct.
will be, yep.
Yep, yep.
So you have.
Put that in bold.
You have
Asterisk.
you have items 1 through 13 on the draft. Are we adding a 14th item?
I think we should make it item number 1.
So
Close to it.
renumber starting with, or do you want to just start with
What are you-
0?
what are you looking
I mean,
at?
this is what's there. We're talking about, this is part of the recording. This is part of the recording. So where do we put the information that we want to stand out? On this?
I don't think that's it.
What are you talking?
Yeah, yeah.
That's 40 flag,
We're
you
talking
got
about
40
not approving the
flagship in your
chicken
hand.
I'm sorry, this one here, I'm sorry, I was holding the wrong document.
Okay, that's all right, I just wanna make sure.
This draft here, the draft here on the,
It's just right, it's just bullet points.
just a bullet point, Amy? Does that make sense? A bullet point on
Yeah.
this page?
Yeah, I can do it, like, after the first paragraph, I can put a note.
Okay, what, anybody have anybody particular about what they wanted to say? The bullet
So
point?
I don't think it's its own bullet point, because that's specific to the resource areas.
Good point.
I think it's in the paragraph, the very first paragraph. The property does not fall within, and I think right
Yes.
after that, you have the
Yeah,
sentence
okay.
that says there's a chicken coop that is not being determined, and we filed under a separate RDA.
Okay,
I move it as amended.
Second.
motion and a second to move as amended. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. I still see nothing on the agenda.
There isn't.
Then I move to adjourn, sir.
Motion and a,
Second.
motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. We stand adjourned. Thank you.